I'm here at the Georgetown Waterfront Park, and this is your guide to what you can see, do, and eat here in Georgetown when you visit Washington, D.C. Hello, my name is Rob. I'm a tour guide and the founder of Trip Hacks DC Tours. On this channel, I share my best tips, tricks, and hacks for visitors who want to explore Washington, D.C. This is the first of potentially many neighborhood guides for Washington, D.C. visitors. So if you dig this sort of video, give it a thumbs up so that I know there's demand to make more. And leave me a comment and let me know what neighborhoods you want to see next. Georgetown is without a doubt the best known neighborhood among folks who don't live here in DC. It's a super popular spot to visit, but it can be overwhelming if you don't come prepared. So I'm going to cover everything from where you can stay in Georgetown, how to get here, what to see and do, and my favorite places to eat. Washington, D.C. does not have official neighborhood boundaries, but to me, Georgetown is roughly defined as 28th Street Northwest to the east, Reservoir Road to the north, the Georgetown University campus to the west, and the Potomac River to the south. Now, many hotels in DC have Georgetown in their name for marketing purposes, and in many cases, they're at least half a mile away down the street. Not so far that you can't walk over here, but far enough away that you're not really staying in Georgetown. If you want to stay in the Georgetown boundaries, the Graham Hotel is located on Thomas Jefferson Street, and probably the one for most people that I would recommend. If money is no object, or you want to splurge, the Ritz-Carlton Georgetown and Four Seasons are both in the neighborhood boundary as well. Now, let's talk about getting here, because most visitors will stay in a hotel elsewhere. Georgetown does not have a metro station. There are lots of myths about why, and I'm not going to cover that in depth now. You can check out my DC Myths video if you're curious about this topic. The two closest metro stations are Foggy Bottom and Roslyn, both on the orange, blue, and silver lines. You can also walk over from the DuPont Circle station on the red line. Whichever station you use, it's going to be at least a 10-minute walk to the edge of the neighborhood, and probably more like 15 or 20 minutes walk if you want to get to the center of the neighborhood. If you're staying downtown, the Circulator bus is a great way to get to Georgetown. There's a Circulator bus route that runs down K Street all the way from Union Station right into the heart of Georgetown. There's also Water Taxi, which can bring you here from Alexandria or the Wharf. Water Taxi is a little less practical as transportation, but could be a fun experience. When I go to Georgetown, I almost always take Capital Bike Share. There are a bunch of bike share stations all over the neighborhood. Taking a cab or Uber is also possible, but could be really slow because traffic in Georgetown gets really heavy, especially on the weekends. And I do not recommend attempting to drive your own car. Now, let's talk about what there is to do once you get to Georgetown. To me, Georgetown is and will always be a shopping destination. You'll find tons of stores, from small boutiques to big national chains. There's a lot of clothing stores here, and it's where the first Apple store in DC opened. So if you like shopping on vacation, this is the place for you. If you're a history buff, there is tons of history in this neighborhood. The Old Stone House is the oldest building in the city, and the only place that dates back to before the Revolutionary War. It's run by the National Park Service and free to visit. Tudor Place is the historic home of George Washington's granddaughter and has one of the largest collections of George Washington historic items outside of Mount Vernon. And Dumbarton Oaks is a historic estate with beautiful landscaping and outdoor gardens. Another historic place is the Georgetown Canal. In 2022, boat tours of the canal came back after a long hiatus. So I would definitely suggest checking that out if you're interested. Next to the Potomac River is the Georgetown Waterfront Park, where I am right now. This is one of the nicest parks in the city, especially in the summer. If you have kids and it's a hot day, bring them down to run through the spray park here. Or pick up lunch from a takeout spot. More on those in a bit. And bring it here for a picnic. Also in the summer, you can kayak on the Potomac River. Find the boathouse under the Key Bridge. and then take your boat out past the Kennedy Center or Roosevelt Island for some pretty unique views. In the winter, Georgetown has the largest ice skating rink in the city. It's usually open from roughly November through the beginning of March. Lots of people ask me about Georgetown University, probably the most well-known university in DC. You can go and walk around the campus and pretend like you're a student, if that's the kind of thing you're into. On a live walk a few years back, I kind of did this, so you can check that out if you want to see what the campus looks like. If you're a movie buff, the Exorcist Stairs and Exorcist House are both located in the neighborhood, as well as a ton of other unique sites and hidden gems. Georgetown is a neighborhood that I think if you really want to experience, you have to do it on a guided tour. There are so many gems and things to see here that a guided tour is the only way that you can guarantee that you won't miss a bunch of them. I do not personally lead a Georgetown tour, but we'll leave a link in the description to the one that I personally recommend. Now, let's talk about food and where to eat. There are tons of restaurants in Georgetown. The most famous restaurant is probably Martin's Tavern, where JFK proposed to Jackie. And yes, you can see and possibly even sit in the booth where it happened. If you want to go high-end, at the time I'm recording this video, Reverie is currently the only restaurant in Georgetown with a Michelin star. Unfortunately, they suffered a fire back in August and had to close. Hopefully they'll be back up and running soon. Fiola Mare is a pretty popular Italian seafood restaurant. They got some attention last year when the president and first lady went on a dinner date there. Farmers, Fishers, and Bakers is another popular spot near the waterfront that I suppose you could describe as modern American food. If you have picky eaters, this is a good choice because it's an elevated menu, but big enough that they have something that's gonna make everybody happy. Now, if you want quicker or less expensive food, I've got you covered. The first is Falafel Inc., a spot that I've talked about in several of my previous cheap eats videos. It's delicious and you're probably not gonna find a more inexpensive meal in DC. Call Your Mother is excellent for bagels and bagel sandwiches. I went here with my friend Megan in our New York City Foods in DC video, and the bagels were so good they even impressed a New Yorker. And finally, Yellow the Cafe is opening a location in Georgetown. Their location in Navy Yard is one of my favorite cafes in the city, and this will be a huge win for Georgetown. And of course, we can't talk about food in Georgetown without talking about cupcakes. There are two famous Georgetown cupcake spots, Baked and Wired and Georgetown Cupcake. Generally speaking, Baked and Wired tends to be the locals' favorite, and Georgetown Cupcake tends to be the tourists' favorite. What I will say is that in my experience, Baked and Wired tends to be a little bit less sweet than Georgetown Cupcake, which could be a pro or a con for some people, so take that information and do with it what you wish. If you want to check out a bakery but aren't really that interested in cupcakes, Dog Tag Bakery is a mission-driven business that hires military vets and veterans' families so that they can learn business skills and build confidence. And hey, now I want to know from you. Have you visited Georgetown before? Which places in the video did you check out? Leave a comment down there and let me know. And then I highly recommend watching another Trip Hacks DC video like this one, which you can watch by clicking or tapping right over here, right there, right now. Enjoy your trip.